was in a street fight, like these would be the people that would have my back, right? Like you guys would have my back. And I know that because for the last 7 years, you've literally had my back. I don't know how many, you guys know, no one wants to get a text from me on a Saturday afternoon because you know what it is. You're like, dang it, somebody quit, and I don't have a good reason not to go. And so I just want to thank you so much because the ministry is really about you guys. Like, I could never, ever do this alone. So can we see our first slide, Lauren? She's my clicker. Okay. So I have this great idea to talk to you guys from Deuteronomy. And I was telling Kevin about it because I was like, there's this peaceful transfer of power, that's the name of the meeting, the peaceful transfer of power meeting. But Kristen made the cards, the invite cards, and she didn't put it on there. And I was like, this is the peaceful transfer of power meeting, Kristen, but she was like, Rachel, it's too much, and we're not ready. So anyways, I was telling Kevin about my idea of this transfer of power of Moses to Joshua. And if anyone's been listening to the sermons for the last few weeks, he totally ripped me off, right? He's been preaching about Joshua. So I was like, well, I can't really do that. And this isn't really a sermon because I'm not a preacher, but this is kind of our outline for tonight. So the book of Joshua literally means second law, which is why it looks so much like the book of Exodus, right? Moses has taken the people from slavery. He's taken the people from slavery in Egypt, from bondage, to their interim period, which is a word you're going to hear a lot in the next few months, in the wilderness. And so they've been in the interim in the wilderness for 40 years, and they're getting ready to go to their destination, which is the promised land. And he knows that he doesn't get to go to the promised land, that he has a sin in his past where God has said, because of the sin, your consequence, is you don't get to go to the promised land. And so Moses is having this handoff to Joshua, before they cross the Jordan River, and he reviews the past with the people of God. And he says, remember. Remember when God did this for you. Remember how Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac followed God, and remember when you didn't follow God. When you're teaching your children the law, have them remember, over and over. He's saying, remember. And he's reviewing their past with the Israelites. And then he talks about the present. He relates how their covenant with God, their law with God is still current, is still relevant in the present. And then he gets them ready for the future that he doesn't get to be a part of. And so that's kind of our outline for tonight, because we're going to review a little bit of the past, we're going to talk about our present, and then I'm handing off the future. And I'm going to try to do it without crying. So, but once upon a time at Crossbridge. So, once upon a time, the building looked like those slides on the right, right, remember? And I didn't have pictures of Peru. We have 3 volunteers tonight here from Peru. And that's only because when Peru was getting remodeled, I was literally my first month on the job, and I was too overwhelmed to even think about taking pictures. But, we used to have that room on the right, kind of in the middle, and then what it looks like now. And I think we all are very proud of it and know that it is a room that really appeals to children. And you remember, I used to have this party trick in maybe it was called the foyer, but it was more like the hallway. And if you stood right in the right place, John didn't believe me, and I made him do it one time. If you stood in the right place and you opened the right door, I could count 7 different colors of carpet. And I was like multi, brown, light blue, dark blue, gray, it was all different. And so now we have our beautiful hub that allows us to have community with other Crossbridgers, and also keeps the children's ministry back and on safe and locked down. It used to be you walked in the door and it was like, welcome to 3rd grade class, and it just wasn't real safe. So we've come a long way with our buildings and presentations of our buildings. But we've also come a long way with our programming. And when I say some of these numbers, they're not to brag, but the significance is if you only offer children's ministry one time over a weekend, you are limiting the number of children that you can reach. So when we expand our programs, I'm not saying toot toot for us, it's toot toot for the mission, because it's that many more families that we can reach, and different communities that we can reach children. So my first week on the job, reviewing the past, so they asked me, I think it was a Thursday or Friday, could you start on Monday? And so I did, because I was interim, and I showed up that first day, and I got a sheet of paper with 6 names that could possibly be, but not yet scheduled or orientated to the children's ministry team for Saturday night service. And the Saturday night service was launching Saturday. Like literally 6 days away. And then I also walked into my office and there was this really cool pair of scissors. And they've lasted 7 years and they're very good scissors, right, Jody? And so I got a piece of paper and a pair of scissors. And you can see which one I kept. I had that paper for years as a memory of I got nothing when I started this job. And so I had, that first week, I started calling every volunteer that was on a schedule. And in the first week, 17 people quit on me. They said, I'm not doing it, I'm done, I haven't had a break since August, I was only serving because Sherry was my friend, and I didn't really like Gavin, and I'm done. So I got a lot of responses, and I had this meeting the first week with the 4 coordinators. So it was Lorraine Armstrong, Susan Brzezinski, Carol Wilcox, and Judy Barron, and we were in the little, was the room before it was the bridge room, before it was the hub. And they were like, Rachel, it's gonna be okay. God will provide, God always provides. And I'm like, there's gonna be children and no grown-ups. And they were like, it's gonna be okay, God will provide. And those women started brainstorming names with me. They started asking, I remember Lorraine was like, I can ask my sister. And I didn't know who her sister was. And now her sister is a very, very dear friend of mine. And Lorraine is a very dear friend of mine. And at the time I was like, ask anybody, right? They can pass a background check, they have a driver's license, like we good. And so, but they were the backbone of the ministry and really helping me kickstart that ministry because, like I said, that Saturday we started nursery and preschool on Saturday nights. And then there was a woman in the church, she's not here anymore, but Christina Emery came up to me and she said, I will own Saturday nights for the summer. I will make sure you have your 4 people, 2 in nursery and 2 in preschool for the summer. You don't have to worry about it. And I was like, praise Jesus, you are saved and sanctified, Christina Emery, and I love you. And she was a leader, and she got it done. And so we've never had a Saturday night where we did not have nursery and preschool covered. So the next one, we launched Peru campus. So then so I started the first weekend of June, and they were like, oh yeah, Peru's getting launched in September on Labor Day. And I went over to the Peru campus, and they were doing all these magnificent things to the first floor, new sound system, new walls, new paint, new carpet. And I go to the children's area, and there wasn't a toy, there wasn't a piece of furniture, there wasn't anything. And there was no team established, no leaders, nothing. And Mona McCorkle comes up to me, and she says, hey, for the first year at Peru, I will teach KX every weekend. And I was, really, every weekend? And she's like, I will come to Saturday night at Ottawa, and then I'll serve Sundays in Peru. And then we had several people like Carrie Town and Carrie Leffelman that were willing to go from Ottawa to Peru to start serving over there. And so we were able, that first summer, we were able to paint rooms and get toys and furniture. And I remember one day I was getting really frustrated just getting a changing table put together. And even Seneca helped me out, the dad.
Sam?
No, his dad.
Oh,
Randy. Randy Seneca comes and he says, I will finish putting the baby changing table together for you. And I was like, God bless you, Randy Seneca, because I am so frustrated with this. And so I just remember those people, like the names I've said today, because that first summer I had no idea what I was doing. I'd only worked in ministry as a volunteer, and I'd never launched a campus, I'd never launched a new service, and without those foundational people, I would have been lost, just lost. A couple years later, Kevin came to me and said, hey, someone's been talking to me and telling me, hey, if we would do full programming on Saturday night, we'll reach more families. And I was like, wait, what? I could barely get my 4 people on Saturday night, and now you want to add Teen 56 and elementary? And so we had a meeting like this, some of you, big breakfast, I fed you carbs. And then I was like, I need you to serve on Saturdays. I need you to be willing to serve twice. And you stepped up, and we launched Saturday night, and there are times when we have more kids on Saturday nights than we have on our services on Sunday mornings. In fact, sometimes prior to COVID, that was the trend for several months. Now it goes back and forth between 10:45 and Saturday being the bigger service. So again, just more families that we reached. And then of course they had Peru campus go from 1 service to 2. So we divided, multiplied, whatever the word is, and stretched again. And then in the summertime, we used to do 1 service on, we'd condense the volunteers, everybody's traveling. And they said, Rachel, that's fine for you, but the 10:45 is getting too big, it's too full. So we need you to do 2 services on Sunday, or during the summer, like 9 and 10:45. like, okay. Of course, then we launched Saturday night, and I was like, now we need you to cover 3 services in the summer when everyone's traveling, right? And I remember Kevin made an all call for it, and we had like 40 people sign cards, and those 40 people, like 30 of them actually became volunteers to sign up for the summer. It's a really good, it was entrapment. It was totally entrapment. So they of those 30, I think we kept like 28 just kept serving, and we just kept going. 4 parent conferences. I did not lead those. You guys, you showed up. Some of you have done childcare at those. Some of you have taught breakout sessions in those. I can contact a leader and have a leader come up here, but if there's nobody participating, it's pretty pointless and very deflating, right? You have to have that critical mass. You have to have that energy to make it feel like an event, right? 2 date nights, right? I mean, I think it'll go down in Crossbridge history when John and Naomi Pickens played, oh yeah, you laughing already. They played Marriage Pictionary on stage, and I don't know how that didn't get recorded. But it's so great. And it will be a favorite Crossbridge memory of mine. 6 Christmas programs. And I'm gonna tell you, I was the kid that was like, Mom and Dad, please don't make me sing, and please don't make me be in a Christmas program. And we've put on 6 of them. And I think the first year we had like 12 kids, and it was like my son and 3 of his friends. And then, like the other years, we had almost 40 kids with speaking parts. Try to find a play with 40 kids with speaking parts. And we would have like up to almost 100 kids on stage. Like we had to buy risers because we couldn't fit them all on the stage. And I had people like Julie Rolando and Heather Thomas that helped lead those programs, and it was great. District camp. I mean, we have gone to 5 different district camps. The last year, I took almost 20 volunteers. Almost 20 volunteers. I gave up a week to come to camp. And let me tell you, camp, it's really fun in theory. But when you're in it, it's like prison. Because you're not ever allowed to be away from them, ever. And you don't get to sleep. And so that's a little torturous, and you're always moving. And some years the food is better than others. And so at the end, I told someone the other day, I was like, I'm not sleeping well. I'm getting 3 to 4 hours of sleep for the last few weeks. I feel like I'm living in kids camp. I'm just having to make it through each day. I don't know where the energy is coming from. But people return, and they go back, and they do it again, because a lot of them had a good camp experience, and they want to give that to the kids, and it's amazing. Last year we did a stay-at-home camp because of COVID. This year we're doing a stay-at-home camp, and I have like 26 leaders involved, and 2 of them are brand new to our team. They don't even serve on Sundays, but they're gonna. I'm gonna get them in. So I'm just so proud of what we have done. And then I think the thing that I'm most proud of is that we returned from a pandemic. The state closed us down, and we were able to resume ministry. I know when John first asked me that June and started talking about, and I was like, John, I think anybody's gonna come. And I started making phone calls. Kristen started making phone calls, and it was just person after person. We lost over half of our team. And I was like, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. And we've done it. There hasn't been a Saturday or a 10:45 that we have not had programming. In Peru, we had to get creative and do a multidisciplinary team. That means that their preschool, elementary, and Team 56 are all in the same class, learning the same curriculum. But that's how we've had to get by, because we haven't had enough volunteers come back. And so we've been creative, but we've had programming, right? We've had kids that are engaged and learning the Bible and learning about the God that created them and loves them. That's the past. Okay? I've done it. I might need a drink of water, but it's the past. Let me tell you, if I showed up here by myself and had 50 kids at one time in the service, I could do, it would be a disaster, right? Trying to hold them. Every 6th grade, grab a baby, right? It'd be like the Duggars, like every big kid, grab a little kid, they're your buddy. If Nicole showed up by herself in Peru, it would be a disaster. It's on 2 levels. She can't even, she literally can't even be in all the places at once. And so we couldn't do it without you guys. Okay, the present. Our mission is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. All right? Our mission is to lead kids, families, and volunteers in a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. I hope your relationship with Jesus has deepened from being involved in children and family ministries, whether it's because you're learning the Bible yourself, as you help teach, or whether you're connecting to more families within the church, because there's a lot more parent contact when you're in the nursery and in toddlers, because you have to convince them to like give them up. And so, but you're learning people's names, and people are learning your names, and they love having a familiar face to give their kids to. They don't want to give their kids to a stranger. And so I hope that you find your relationship is deepening just in service, right? Because that is the point of our walk with Christ. It's not to sit back and be like, I love a pastor that feeds me. I love a pastor that makes me laugh. I love a pastor that encourages me. The Bible tells us to love others, to serve others. It's in service. You know, they will know that we're his disciples by how we love other people. And when you hold a crying baby for 45 minutes, you are loving that baby and you are loving that parent. And when the toddlers are kicking you, you're loving them and you're loving that family so that they can get to worship. All right. Okay. So I can't use Deuteronomy because Kevin stole it from me. So I started thinking, what do I want to tell you all? And this is what I was thinking. When our status quo changes, when our circumstances change, our first response tends to be anxiety. Our first response tends to be fear. And so I found an example in the Bible of how the Israelites dealt with fear. And maybe this will be familiar to you. So this is at the point where Moses has gone to Pharaoh and said, hey, let my people go into the wilderness and worship their God. And Pharaoh says, and if I were with the kids, they would all shout, no. And so, you know, that's when God starts bringing on the plagues. And we have the 10, and after each plague, Moses goes back to Pharaoh and says, hey, will you let my people go worship in the wilderness, worship their God in the wilderness? And each time after the 9 plagues, Pharaoh says, No. Yeah. And after the 10th plague, Pharaoh says, I'll never want to see your face again. Go. Right? So they don't just get permission to go worship their God, they get permission to leave Egypt, to leave slavery, to leave bondage. And so the people, they grab their bread that isn't risen, and they grab their children, and they get out of town, right? And then Pharaoh realizes, you know, there might have been an emotional response, like I might have overreacted, like we need them to build bricks because I need more statues of me, and I need more pyramids built, and so we need those workers to come back. And he sends his army after them, right, to go get them. And so that's where this picks up in Exodus 14. And he says, as Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them, and they were terrified, and they cried out to the Lord. And they said to Moses, was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? So he's very supporter of their new leader, Moses, right? And can we go on? They say, didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. And so the Israelites, they are seeking to return to the status quo. They're afraid. There's this army coming at them. And here's the thing, there's an army coming at them, and on the other side of where they are, we know is the Red Sea, right? So it's not like they can let's just outrun them, because there's the Red Sea. And so they're like, army, sea, like, why didn't you just leave us alone? We should have just stayed how it was. We should have just stayed in the status quo. We want to go back to how it was. And a lot of us deal with fear and the unknown and anxiety by really wishing for the past, right? And then Moses, who's a budding new leader, and he says, hey, do not be afraid. Stand firm and you will see the deliverance of the Lord will bring you today. And the Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. All you need to do is to be still. So he, you know, the pinnacle of wisdom, just stand still. Because Moses can't see a way out either, right? He can only see what the human eye sees. And he's like, well, we're going to have to fight and God will be with us and it'll be okay. Just stand still. And that's the other thing that we tend to do when we're afraid or anxious is we get paralyzed. We don't want to move. Like, I'm just going to stay here. It's like that fight or flight response, right? They wanted to fly back. Moses is like, we're going to fight, right? But God had a different way of dealing with fear and anxiety of the unknown. And he says, hey, Moses, why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. Because God had a way and a plan for the future that their humanness could not even envision. It reminds me of our campaign, the Far More campaign, right? Far more than we could imagine. And so I want to tell you, like, we had a really good past, and I am so blessed, and I tell people it's my favorite job I've ever had, and I really love, and my time at Crossbridge will be so cherished, and I try to say that with dry eyes. But like, we have a really good future coming, and I do not doubt that at all. And I might not be able to be a part of it, but instead of saying the words move on, I want to say move forward. Like, we're just gonna move forward, because God doesn't want us to get stuck. He doesn't want us to be like, oh, it's not the same without Kevin, or oh, without Kevin I won't get fed, or without Kevin, like, it's not going to be the same, but it doesn't mean that it couldn't even be better someday. I mean, don't tell him I said that. But, you know, or like, Erica's not like Rachel. Like, someone said to me the other day, they were like, isn't Erica a lot quieter than you? And I was like, everyone's more quieter than me. What are you talking about? I'm not the standard to measure quietness, right? So I'm like, that's okay, and it's going to be fine. Like, when she needs to say something, she will. And let me tell you something about Erica. When she talks, you better listen, because she's thought it out, she's planned it out, and it's deep. A couple years ago, I was running a small group, and I had to be out of town, and I came, and she substituted for me for this small group. And it wasn't with kids, it was with adults. And they all went on for the first 10 minutes about how well she did. And I was like, okay, well, I'm ready to go, right? But she's just very deep, and when she speaks, I challenge you to listen, because it will be meaningful. Whereas I'm just half obnoxious all the time, you know, and ridiculous, and that's okay, because that's how God created me. All right, so getting back to the present, right? Our mission is to lead kids, families, and volunteers in a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. Here is the why. Why does it matter? Oh, that slide doesn't look very good up there. Okay, good, it looks fine up there. All right, so the Barna Group is a group that does like societal studies and research, and they have told us that half of Americans accept Jesus Christ as their Savior by the age of 13. So that doesn't mean 50% of Americans are Christians. It means of the ones that are Christians, 50%, over half, is by the age of 13. That is what we do. We lead kids to Christ. Even if they're praying a prayer of salvation in 6th grade, it started in Jan and Bill's preschool class. It started in Sue and Julie's toddler class. We lead kids to Christ. 2/3 of Christians make that commitment by their 18th birthday. 1/8 make their profession between 18 and 21. So that means 75% of the people who become Christians do it by the age of 21. Because it was like 23% of people find Christ after 21. So what we do matters. Like, 50% of people find in Jesus by the time they're age 13. That's that half of the building, people. And that's why what we do really matters, and we should have half the budget. Just saying. Just saying. And here's, again, why does it matter? So I had these statistics. I actually found them for the training I was going to do with y'all last year, and then COVID canceled that. But the kids, they face pressures, temptations, and moral dilemmas at an earlier age than before. Some of you guys know that I'm also work as a school social worker. Julie here is my social work partner. We work at Lincoln School together. And so, I mean, she can attest to this. But like, alcohol abuse begins as early as 10 years of age. The average age to view pornography is 11. Self-harm frequently starts around 12. We see kids self-harming in elementary school. Kathy, you're a school social worker as well. Like, you know these are true, right? Suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death in adolescents in America. And there's an epidemic of depression and anxiety in teens. And that was all before the pandemic, right? And so we need, in a world that's ever shifting, in a world that's ever changing, right? That was one of the things they said that caused the most anxiety about the pandemic, is that our societal rules were changing daily. We didn't know the expectations of what we were allowed to do or not allowed to do. But the thing that doesn't shift or change is the Word of God and Jesus Christ. And that's what we offer to our kids. Future. You ready? So in the New Testament, Paul, who wrote much of the New Testament, right, he makes all these metaphors through running races and athletics. And mainly because he was writing to, a lot of the people he was writing to were a Greek audience, and he was trying to reach the Greek audience, right? And what are the Greeks known for? The Olympics. So he uses all these metaphors that would reach them and that they would understand. But here he says, let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. So what I'm asking you guys today, and I don't think anyone in this room will, I was hoping we might gather some, but what I'm asking you is don't be the 17 people that quit on me the first week. Don't be like, hey, Rachel was my best friend, and now that she's gone, I'm out, right? Persevere and keep going. And I challenge you to be the Lorrays and the Sues and the Carols and the Judys and the Monas that were that foundational group that said, I'm here, I have your back, and I will help you. You know, you can text me on Saturday afternoon and I will answer. You know, another metaphor, like just it kind of keeps going, right? Here Paul says, I fought the good fight, I finished the race, I've kept the faith. And I love this. He says he's not commending himself for what he's done, but he's describing what the grace of God enabled him to do. Guys, let me tell you a little secret about Erica. She's run 6.5 marathons. And I say half because the last one she did was Team World Vision last year, and she organized the Team World Vision Marathon because Chicago was canceled, right? They had to run here in Ottawa, and they had to do it all within like 2.5 miles of a doctor, and she had to plan like this intricate, like 8-loop, 2.5 mile course. And she would run beside the people that were struggling, run beside the people who wanted to quit, and she was their encouragement. And so I called her at the end of the day and I said, how many miles do you run, right? And she's like, 30. She ran 30. She didn't brag, she didn't tell anybody, but I knew from watching her, because I was on my bicycle, because I don't run marathons. And and I was like, that girl did not run 26.1. And some of you guys in here were people that she ran with and people that she encouraged. And I like to think that if she can encourage people to run 26.1 miles to raise water for children in Africa, she's going to be able to encourage you all and others and new people to serve an hour and a half once a month. That's a lot easier sometimes, unless you're in the nursery. I tease because that's like my nightmare, right? Give me like 40 rambunctious elementary kids, but in the nursery I'm like, it's dirty. Holding fast the word of life so that in the day of Christ I will have reason to glory because I did not run in vain. You might not ever pray with a kid to receive Jesus, but Dan has, and he has because they went through the program and they were engaged in church from a small child, right? Or somebody who was engaged in church as a small child brought a friend because we have a playland and they wanted their friend to play on the playland. And so we were able to teach that child about Jesus. Do you not know that in a race, all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. And it was really good, so I kept going. He says, all athletes are disciplined in their training, and they do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. And so I run with purpose in every step. When we come on Sundays and Saturdays, we come with purpose. Like we come with purpose to connect with others, to connect with the kids, to connect with parents, and lead everyone into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. That is our future. That is my challenge for you. And now, without further ado, I'm bringing up Erica. And I want you to rip out your phones. And I want you to type in this number as a contact, and then text her your first and last name. And if you want to text her your program, like you could say Peru, or you could say nursery, or you can say toddlers, preschool, that would be great too. And then don't ever tell her you didn't get her text because you didn't know her number. Right, Kristen? Yeah, she's had that. Oh, I didn't know your number. So yes. And when I wrote to you guys my that I was going to resign in February, I actually wrote that in January. And the day before we were going to go to the board and tell them that I was resigning, I found out I didn't get the job I was expecting to get. And I was devastated. And I asked John to wait a month to tell you all because I couldn't deal with your emotional response to me stepping down because I was having such a strong emotional response to what was perceived rejection. And so I know that by waiting, it kind of made it look fishy with Kevin's announcement, but I just want you to know that I told John in October last year that this would be my last year leading, and I had been wrestling with it since last January. And I didn't know why I was wrestling with it because I love this job, but I knew that it was my time to step down. And so but when I wrote to you guys, I tried to create this imagery and the metaphor of handing off a baton because the race keeps going, like just like Paul said, right? We're still running a race. And I almost made a baton to give her, but we're kind of on a budget for fast. And so I didn't waste the time or money, but I do have the keys. Power, right? The keys. And so you will see her wearing the keys around her neck so that she can put you in the lockdown at any given time. And I do want to give just a few suggestions or challenges. Can we go to the next slide? First of all, I want you to pray. John said this once years ago in a staff meeting. It really stuck with me, but he was quoting Oswald Chambers. And it said, prayer does not fit us for the greater work. Prayer is the greater work. Sometimes we like to pray before the event because we think we're preparing for the event through prayer. Prayer is the work. Prayer changes us. Prayer changes our circumstances. Like God listens to us when we pray. So I want you to pray for your church. I want you to pray for our team because we got to grow, people. We have to grow. Like the time of standing still is over. We have to move forward. And I want you to pray for our new leader. She is walking away from a 15-year career in the public school system, TRS. And she's stepping out on faith to start a new job where both her bosses just quit. And so like that takes a lot of faith. And in her, let me know, like she knew before she took the job that was a possibility, and she stepped out and took it anyway. And so she loves our kids, and she loves our team, and she loves Jesus. And I have no doubt. And to pray for our kids. Pray for the kids that are coming back, and pray for the kids that are not yet back, and that are still coming to return. My second challenge is a little harder. Just like I stood up a few years ago and said, hey, we're going to open a Morris campus, and I need you to be willing to go to Morris. And hey, we're going to start a Saturday night, which was like all at the same time, right? And I want you to be willing to serve on Saturday night. And you did, and we did. When we opened Morris, when I looked at my volunteer list, I had one volunteer that lived in Morris. Thank you, Judy. One. Dan, thank you for the leadership that you gave Morris. Dan led Morris. He lives 5 miles north of the church. He does not live in Morris, right? Jody, you give a lot of leadership to Morris. Thank you so much. And I'm asking you guys to do it again, but to do it here and do it in Peru. Because Peru needs to get back to having curriculum that is for the age appropriate. Yes, we can't grow with 5th and 6th graders and 4-year-olds in the same room. So we need Peru to get back, even if it's just pulling out the preschoolers or just pulling out the Team 56, wherever that critical mass is. And so here's how, and the 9 o'clock has to come back. Like, let me say that to you all. The 9 o'clock has to come back. Like, it's okay for the summer. We're like, you know, people go on vacation, travel, our numbers go down. But the 2 biggest months that our ministry grows is August, when people get back in a routine with school, and January, because they have these New Year's resolutions, and we're going to find Jesus, right? So August and January is when we have the most new people come to our church. And every week I stand out there at 9 o'clock, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, but we don't have 9 o'clock programming. And then I say a guilt-ridden statement. I'm like, I don't have enough leaders. You know, and I wait for them to like finish the sentence, and no one has yet been like, I'll step up if it needs 9 o'clock. But we need to open the 9 o'clock. And that means that I hope some of you who haven't been serving will return to serving. I hope that I'm going to challenge you to find a serving partner. Duplicate yourself. And this doesn't mean that they have to serve with you. Because like Julie and Sue, you guys are a phenomenal team. You might not want to break up, but you can invite someone to serve and say, hey, I do toddlers and it's super easy. You know, they cry and then they're fine, they play, we're great. But encourage somebody else to join the team. Tell them, if you like what you do, tell them about what you do. But find someone to serve with you. And if the easiest way to do that is to say, hey, I serve in whatever, come be my buddy. And here's what happens, and you'll find this out. Like Hannah and Kathy, you guys used to serve together, right? You were a team. And then they split. And Hannah, who's going to college to be a teacher, is now teaching her own class because she had under the tutor of her mom, and then they split. And that's what happens. So we invite someone, we train them, and then the team divides, right? And we multiply ourselves. The other is, for a season, some of us might need to serve twice. Or in Julie Morales' case, 5 times last month. Like, literally she served in 5 services. Was it in May or already just June? Or like a combination? May. It was like in 3 weeks she served in 5 services. And twice it's because she came to me and said, do you need help? And I was like, yes. There's a lot of crying babies. And so like, I'm gonna need, Erica is gonna need those people.
And I'm going to add to that, because in my experience through this, and there might be people out there, you know, or we want to find the right fits for our volunteers, because me volunteering on the weekend here with the kids as a professional teacher and not having to assess them and just getting to enjoy them made me such a better person during the week. Made me a better teacher during the week. And it doesn't have to mean you have to be a teacher. It can be any of your jobs. Like, it's just something that
most of our team is not a professional teacher.
No.
Most of our team, they don't work with kids professionally, which is probably why they enjoy kids on the weekend.
And that's, I would have never thought that I wanted to help and I enjoy kids, but I would have never thought that experience, it lingered over and made me better during Monday through Saturday, you know?
Yeah. So help us grow the team. In the inner row here, we have cards and some pins. If you want to just grab those, maybe pass them down to people. But it's just a way for you to communicate with us. You can write your name on the card and just say, hey, I'm willing to serve twice a month, or I'm willing to commit to finding a partner. It might not be this week, but in the next few months. Or I'm willing to return to serving. But they're in this first pocket of the first row in each row. And if you guys will just fill those out and then put them in the back basket on the table, grab a water, introduce yourself to Erica, grab a t-shirt if you want a t-shirt, and just know, guys, that I love you all. And I don't mean like, oh, I love pizza. Like, I love you. I love you. Some of you guys have been with me through the hardest years of my life. Just looking around the room and I see it, this is where I'm gonna get teary. But I mean, Jody, oh my word, if we not walk together day in and day out for 5 years, I'll say the worst weekend of my life, Gloria Guy was with me, and then we had to go do Superstar. It was my first time taking kids to Superstar, and personally, I was a mess. And my family was going through a crisis. And Gloria, you got me through the weekend, because I had to fake it till I made it, right? There was like no one else to take the kids and drive the cars and lead it. We've never gone before, and I will never forget that experience with you, sleeping on air mattresses in a gym where they forgot to keep the heat on at night and the air in the mattress became the temperature of the floor, which was about 50 degrees. But like, we did it, right? And some of you guys know some of the personal stuff I've gone through, and you check on me. And my job was to check on you. And you checked on me on the weekends. How's your family? How's this? How's that? And I just can't thank you enough for that. And I love you guys. And I have no doubt that you will do that for Erica. And your job might be to minister to them, but they will do it 3 times over to you. And so